Today is Purim. Happy Purim. Afreilichem Purim. Today we have mitzvahs that we're meant to do, so we'll get to that straight away because that's the most important thing. You're meant to hear the Megillah, you're meant to eat a Suda, Yontif meal, you're meant to give charity to the poor and to send food packages to friends. Many of you might have remembered when you were young in your neighborhood, people would come around collecting for charity, Hantis, Peter, Mog, and his os. Gave me $1 and $5 me aros. Today is Purim, tomorrow it's not. Give me $1 and throw me out of your house. So don't forget to do the mitzvahs of today. Today is Purim. Purim is, in a certain sense, the happiest day of the year. Many laws, regular limitations are suspended, and the joy knows no bounds. Since the war started, we'll start with Stocker. Hashem should end the war now. We should win, and Mashiach should come. We'll say a prayer that we say Motzei Shabbos by Havdalah. It's a pasuk from the Megillah. La Yudeim Hoy Sa'oira V'Simcha V'Sasein V'Kar. The Jews had light, joy, and also two lashonos that are joy and glory. So we'll just mention the first two eiras, Torah, Simcha is Yom Tov. We should have good days, healthy days, productive days, and we should have days of learning Torah, long life, and all good blessings. We forgot to mention, as everyone, I bless everyone to be gesund, stark, und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. Healthy, strong, and happy physically and spiritually. Today's Parsha is Parshas Ki Sisa, and we have to understand the connection from Parshas Ki Sisa and Purim. So we'll start. The mitzvah, Parshas Ki Sisa starts with the mitzvah of Machzah Shekel, the mitzvah of every single person giving a half a shekel to the Mishkan. Now there's a fascinating Gemara. Oh, there's also a very famous Haftarah this week, the Haftarah of Eliyahu, chastising the Jewish people, rebuking them, with the famous words, Ad Mosai atem poischem ashtei sifim, for how long will you vacillate on both sides, so to speak? So we have to understand the connection between the Parsha and the Haftarah and Purim. Now, especially Purim, as we mentioned before when we spoke about Purim, there's a famous Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, Kol HaKodesh HaMegillah Mefreya Lo Yotza, whoever reads the Megillah backward or out of order does not fulfill the mitzvah. And the reason is because the whole idea to see the miracle of Purim, which was in nature, is only when you read it in the sequential order that you see how every single detail has to follow the other. And then you become aware of the miracle in a greater way. But if you don't, then you don't really appreciate the enormity and how great the miracle was. So therefore you have to read it in the proper order. The Baal Shem Tov learned Pshat according to Chassidus. Kol HaKodesh HaMegillah L'Mefreya. Whoever reads the Megillah in such a way that he thinks it's a story that happened a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away, it's a history book, Lo Yotza. You have to internalize it, you have to integrate it, it has to resonate. So what's the message of Purim? So even though we say that about everything in Torah, that we have to see the relevance, but it seems like the relevance of the Megillah and the story of Purim is more necessary than others, because over here is where the Baal Shem Tov revealed that Torah, Kol HaKodesh HaMegillah Mefreya Lo Yotza. So there's a Gemara, a phenomenal Gemara, a Megillah Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis, which over there we see the connection between Purim and Machzas HaShekel that most people are not aware of. There's so much in Torah that people learn and they forget to make the connection, so you don't hear rabbis speak about it, even though obviously people know about it. The Gemara in Megillah Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis is talking about the concept how HaKadosh Baruch Hu Higdim Refuah L'Makah. Hashem always precedes the cure before the disease. So whenever there's a problem, Hashem brings the cure before the disease. To bring an example of that, the Gemara brings many examples. One example the Gemara brings in the story of Purim is the pasuk where Haman says, "Im al melech toiv yikosav la'abdeim." If the king pleases, make a decree that we should annihilate the entire Jewish nation. V'aseres halofim kikar kesav v'goymer, and Haman is going to give 10,000 talents of silver. Omer Ishlakish. Ishlakish said, Golu v'yadua lefnei misha omar v'oyo ilam. It's known, revealed, before the one who said and the world was created. It was known to the Eibishter in advance. Sha'osid Haman lishkel shkolim, that Haman will offer this cash advance to Achashverosh to destroy the Jews. Lefichach higdim shikleihen l'shkolov. So therefore the Eibishter gave the Jews the commandment, the mitzvah of Machzor Shekel, almost 1,000 years before the story of Haman in Parshas Ki Sisa. Hashem gave them, He preceded the commandment of Machzor Shekel to the story of Haman offering 10,000 kikar kesef to Achashverosh. So we see clearly a Mefedesh Gemara explicit that says that the Machzor Shekel, in a way, annihilated, was the antidote to Haman's shkolim. And now we have to understand what's the concept. Shekel. These shkolim that the Yidden gave 1,000 years before for charity and continued giving whenever there was a Beis HaMikdash cancel out the shkolim of Haman. Why? What's the concept? What does it mean? So to understand that, we'll say a Sikha of the Rebbe in Chelik Gimel. In that Sikha of Chelik Gimel Ki Sisa, he mentions another Gemara. See how Ura 24 there, where the Gemara in Megillah brings out also that the reason why the Gzeira happened, that the Jews had this decree of annihilation, was because the Shtachvul Tzelem, because Jews had bowed down to the idol of Nebuchadnezzar in the days of Nebuchadnezzar. So that was a concept of idolatry. And in general, similar to the story in Parshas Ki Sisa, the Machzor HaShekel was an atonement for the Chet HaEgel, as we'll discuss right now. And that's also the connection, see the Ha'ara 24 there, similar to the concept of the Machzor HaShekel that's going to be an atonement for the sin of the golden calf, which was Avodah Zarah. So too, the Machzor HaShekel is an atonement for the decree that happens by Haman, which also came because of something of idolatry. So the Rebbe explains in the Sikha Chelik Gimel, a medrash is brought down that the pasuk says Zeh Yitnu, give like this. What does it mean Zeh Yitnu, give this? Because Moshe didn't understand what does it mean that they're giving a Machzor Shekel. But what didn't he understand? He didn't understand if I say give 50 cents. That he understood. What he didn't understand was how it's a kofer nafshay. How does a Machzor HaShekel atone for the gravest sin? And in that the answer was Kozeh Hashem at the show matbeh shalesh, a coin of fire. And he said, like this they should give. Now, by the way, I was by many Fabringans of the Rebbe in the Mems. I'm saying a side point now. Whenever the Rebbe would speak about this matbeh shalesh, the Rebbe would get very animated, very excited. And it was like the Rebbe was seeing this matbeh shalesh, like Moshe Rabbeinu was seeing the matbeh shalesh. I cannot describe it to you. Maybe people who I'm speaking to over here experienced it. It was unbelievable. And the Rebbe was going on and on about it. And sometimes I felt he's in a different place. He's in a different reality. He sees this matbeh shalesh, mamish, a divine revelation, and he's getting all excited about it. Anyways, so the Rebbe explains in the Sikha Chelik Gimel, what's the idea of matbeh shalesh? The matbeh shalesh is the essence of a yid. It's not the amount that each person gave, because each one gives a Machzor HaShekel, which seemingly it's a very small amount. But the point is that it's a Matbeya Shel Eish. And the Rebbe explains many layers to this Matbeya Shel Eish. We're going to talk about one aspect of it. Eish represents the heart of every single Yid. It's on fire. It's the essence bond, the connection that every Yid has with Hashem, which can never be extinguished. And it's constantly yearning, pining for Hashem. And that's al derech what the pasuk says, Hani Yeshena, a Jew in exile, Hani Yeshena is asleep, but Velibi er, my heart is aroused, it's stimulated, I'm on fire for Hashem, deep down. And this is the meaning why the Matbeya Shel Eish could atone for the sin of Chet HaEgel, idolatry, because it means that if you scratch the surface, if you dig deeper, in every single Yid, he's truly loyal. He's still attached. He's still loyal. He's still devoted. But this is the lesson we learn from Purim, and the lesson we learn from Machzah Shekel, that we have to tap into this flame and make it fiery and bring it out. Till now it's just a small flame, it's just like a spark. We have to flame it up, blow it up. And that's how we have to serve Hashem, and that atones for everything. The Rebbe in that Sikha brings an analogy from the Baal Shem Tov, which I don't recall anywhere else where it's brought, very, very interestingly. And he brings an analogy of a person who studies to be a goldsmith or a silversmith. And he studies by a master, and the master shows him all the details, how you take metal and you bend it and you form it and you shape it, and tools and utensils to use. Except he demonstrated on a piece of metal, gold or silver, that was already heated up. He forgot to tell the student, the apprentice, that you have to first have a fire in order to mold this piece of metal. The Rebbe says in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, the fire is the passion. Matbeya Shel Eish. Your whole service of Hashem, if it's missing the passion, if it's missing the fire, it's not really getting anywhere. It's not getting any places. There's no advancement, there's no growth, there's no change, there's no shift. Imagine you're a person who's a goldsmith and you have a piece of metal and you didn't warm up that piece of metal to make it pliable. You will not get anywhere. So the same thing's over here. When we talk about our Avodas Hashem, there could be a person that is serving God, but it's all mechanical, it's all by rote, it's dead. Like mitzvahs b'lei kavanah, kiguf b'lei neshama. There's no life, there's no passion, there's no spirit. And this is what it means when you serve Hashem with the fire. That means totality, commitment. This is who you are. There's another analogy that everybody spoke, a very interesting analogy. It's different, but you could connect it. And that was in Pashas Re'ei Tavshin Beis. The Rebbe said a story that the Frierdiker Rebbe was in Italy in the early days when the locomotive was invented. And it seems such a story once happened, that there was the locomotive that has the head car. The locomotive is the first, where the engine of the locomotive is. And the steam locomotives worked that the head car had a fire. They were burning something, and that generated steam, and that gave the power that the train could move. So the Rebbe said in Italy, where things weren't so smart, a story once happened that there were people in all the cars, passengers are in all the cars. And the way the Rebbe said the story was, the whistle blew, the sparks were flying, there was steam, there was noise, there's lots of excitement, but all the people in the cars are going nowhere. Why? Because they forgot to attach the cars to the head, to the engine. The Rebbe in that Sikha Re'ei Tavshin Yud Beis, he says that that's talking about the body and the soul. If you don't ignite your soul, that it should be attached to the body, you're not going to accomplish anything. In other words, we've got the power. We have the fire. So in this analogy is a bit deeper. We have the fire, you just have to tap into it. In the analogy of the goldsmith, he forgot to tell him in general that there's a fire. But in either case, it comes to the same thing. If you don't have the fire, if you don't inject the passion, bring back the passion. If you don't bring back the passion and excitement, then your whole Judaism is going to be dry and considered dead, and there won't be any real change. You're stuck in the same paradigm, you're stuck in the same perspective, you're stuck in the same limitations, you're stuck with your same inhibitions. And this is also connected to the story of Purim, is also connected to the story of Amalek. As we know, Amalek is Begematria Sofik, which means doubts. But Ashakorcha Baderech, it also Miloshen Kridas, coldness. Amalek represents, you could do a Judaism, but don't get excited, don't get passionate. What are you getting so excited about? And it's understood ultimately that going down is easy, and once you drained out the juice, and the excitement, and the passion of your Judaism, then it becomes lifeless. Now let's go to the Haftarah. What I'm going to say now is a Sikha in Chelik Gimel. It's a very long Sikha, and it's a very profound Sikha, also a subject which the Rebbe does not speak in other places. I say Chelik Gimel, it's Chelik Aleph. Kisisa Chelik Aleph and Kisisa Chelik Aleph and Kisisa Chelik Gimel. Chelik Aleph, the Rebbe speaks about the Haftarah, and he says, it's a very famous Sikha, and he asks the question, why does Eliyahu in the Haftarah tell them, Ad Masay Atem Poischem Ashtei Sifim, why are you vacillating from side to side? He should have said, why are you serving the Baal? Why are you serving the idol? So the Rebbe explains that Sikha. I'm not going to all the details. You should learn on your own. It's an exercise in Avodas Hashem and in truth. And all of Chassidus is about truth. Can you handle the truth? So the point that the Rebbe explains over there is the people that were serving the Baal, they were also serving God. Like, imagine you're married to two husbands. So their sin was not just straight up idolatry. Their sin was also connected to what's called shituf, a partnership. So what's worse? Serving outright avodah zarah, not believing in our God but serving an idol, denying our God, Hashem Echad, or serving idols and Hashem. So what the Rebbe explains in that Sikha is that in a certain sense, Peiseach Ashtei Sifim, the one who's wishy-washy, vacillator, is worse. And he gives three reasons. One reason is because the one who vacillates will never do tshuva. When you come to a person and you tell him he did something wrong, it's a yes or no question. So it's simple. Do you believe in Hashem? Our Hashem? Hashem Echad? So if you serve the idol, you say, no, God forbid. So one day you'll do tshuva when you realize your mistake. And it'll be easy for you to come to do tshuva because it's more like a black and white question. It's called gasus hara. But when somebody is still serving Hashem the whole time, he can always say, but I was serving Hashem also. What's so terrible? Is it so bad? This is the eternal question a lot of people say. Is it so bad? So number one, he won't come to tshuva because he'll never really acknowledge, own up to the bad that he did. The second thing is that by the person who serves Avodah Zarah, he's mistaken ideologically. He has a mistake, but spirituality to him is more important. Except he doesn't believe in this spirituality, he believes in another spirituality. He believes in a different sort of religion. But the person who's Pesach Ashtei Sifim, as the Rebbe explains in that Sikha, the ones who were serving the Baal and Hashem, they were placing their bets on everything. They want a good life. They're not interested in serving anything. They're not interested in giving up of themselves anything. They want to have a good life. In order to have a good life, they believe that some influence comes through the mazoles, or some influence might come. There's a couple of mafia bosses in town. Get to know the rich and the powerful. There's one rich and powerful Hashem, the Jewish one, and there's other rich and powerful forces. So because I want my life to be good, I want my swimming pool, I want my Mercedes, I want my mansion, because I want to make sure to get what I want, Therefore, I want to make sure I'm hedging my bets in all areas. So that means that you don't really care about anything ideologically, in other words, spiritually, in other words, a sense of serving a greater cause. You serve yourself. But the people that serve another Avodah Zarah, they believe in the idea of commitment and service and getting involved in something greater than yourself, except they're dealing with the wrong one. They have a mistake in their understanding. So we have to enlighten them, no problem, because they're more spiritual seekers. And last but not least, the Rebbe says the reason why the Pesach Al Shtei Sifim is worse is because the one who is Eved Avodah Zarah, no one will follow in their ways. Because you say, he's going after something which is totally alien, totally foreign, totally prohibited. But these guys, they're not so bad. They also go to synagogue and Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, etc. So therefore they're worse with the three reasons that the Eibishter said. With the three reasons that it says in the Sikha. Now, the point I want to bring out from that Sikha, and this is really also connected to the first part of what we spoke today about the fire and the passion, is that this is a cry for authenticity, genuine, being solid. Just want to reiterate about Purim, the sacrifice to Mesiras Nefesh of Purim, how we showed that we're still loyal, we're with you, Hashem, even though there was parts that we did wrong before, sins that we did wrong. And that's the message of Purim, and the message of Matbei Shalesh, and the message of Eliyahu, who's trying to appeal to you to get to your core, that part of you which is loyal essentially with Hashem, no matter what. And that's the main point of everything we're speaking about today, that we have to tap into that part of us that's completely loyal. And this is what I mean when I say authenticity. When a person is passionate and committed, so then there's no wishy-washy. Because this is me. There's no two parts to me. If I'm that, I'm not that. And now's not the time to get into it, but this is, again and again, we have these discussions today. People like to use the word balanced. And they like to bash extremism all the time. And the truth is, I don't have the right words to bring it out, but I'm saying it over here again and again, that it's not going to say in anyone's tombstone, he was balanced. If you mean to say that you're balanced, that you know how to balance your work and your family, that's good. If it means to say that the person is well-rounded, there's music in the background now from the streets over here, Melbourne, Purim. If you want to say that you're well-rounded and you're balanced, that means you were very fine with your mind and with your heart. You had a gesunte Kopf, a gesunte heart, beautiful. If you want to say you're balanced in your mitzvahs, that's also beautiful. But if we say you're an extremist, you're a kanoi, there's nothing wrong with being a kanoi, to be an extremist. That means that what we're talking about now. The Yidden in Purim, they had a choice. They could have converted, even though Haman wanted to annihilate the Jews, and the decree would go away. Whoever would convert wouldn't be killed. And Alter Rebbe says an astonishing point, that even though they had a year to think about it, and they knew that the Kill Jew International Day is coming in a year, the Alter Rebbe writes the following words, Le'ola machsheves chutz. The thought of being disloyal to Hashem didn't even enter their mind. And that means to be an extremist in a good way. There's no other option. Azoi unit andish. This is who we are, and not that. And that's what it means when we say authenticity. Not wishy-washy. And this is really all of what it means in the words of Eliyahu, when he says, Ad mosai atem poischem al shtei sifim. When you're wishy-washy, Sunday you're this way, Monday you're that way. Sometimes you have these liberal words or progressive words that sounds beautiful, but it really usually isn't saying anything. It's just words. But when it comes to reality, when it comes to Maisa B'Poel, you have to take a stand, and you have to be solid. And when you take a stand and when you're solid and you're committed, it's Mil Hashem Elai. Who stands for Hashem? Who stands for what's right? And right means we're turning right, not left. So, this is the lesson we have to take from Purim. And this is the connection between Parshas HaShavua, Matbeya Shel Eish. You're on fire, you're passionate, which means you're committed. Matbeya Shel Eish. The Haftarah, no more wishy-washy. We have clarity, and we have commitment, and we have totality, and it's authentic, and it's genuine. And we come to Purim, we tapped into that part of ourselves, essence to essence. We were loyal in the face of adversity, and even though we didn't see revealed miracles, but we stuck loyal to Hashem, regardless of what was coming our way. There's a famous story, I said this once before, and it goes like this, that there was once a soldier who was in Siberia, and he had to guard his post. And he fell to the ground because his feet became frozen, he couldn't stand anymore. His commanding officer made an inspection, he found him on the floor, frozen, and he started whipping him. And a chassid was standing close by, and he heard the following exchange, dialogue. The soldier was saying, but my feet froze, I became frozen. And the commanding officer was beating him and said, but if you would have remembered the oath you gave the Tsar, it would have kept you warm. And the chassid recounted this, I think it was in Nechemia Dubrovna, chassid in Tzemach Tzedek, that this episode warmed him, kept him warm in the service of Hashem for 20 years. So when a person is inspired, he's getting involved in his Yiddishkeit, in his Avodas Hashem, in his dedication and devotion to others, then he gets warm, then he gets excited, and his heart is always on fire, yearning, rising, longing to go higher and higher. Afeilich and Yontif, it should be Simcha Gerer Simcha, Purim all year long, keep on being happy, and everyone around you will be happy, and the merit of our happiness, we will go out of exile, take it from Yad Mamish, posting from my Makom HaShlichus, posting from my home, Be'ez Hashem Yisborech, your man in Melbourne.